Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon. Hi, welcome. This was a hi, David. This was an expected session. I don't know if I told you, Dagem, but like the last time we were in the room, everyone was like, "Oh, so we are talking about prototype today." Like everyone was very
Yeah.
excited. So very happy that we managed to plan this again. Thank you again very much
No,
for your support on that.
no worries, no
Um,
worries.
so for the people in the room, as usual, feel free to change your name so that we can see your name and your studio name. For Dagem also to be able to map the room, if you can put like your city, country in the chat so that we can see a little bit. I can tell you already that I see South Africa, I see Nigeria, I see Senegal, I see Mali, I see Egypt. I think I see Tunisia, and the rest of the troop is probably going to come over slowly but surely when the time is going to start. Um, but as usual, I'm not going to start talking for too long, or I'm going to bore you all. So, Dagem, thank you very much for being here. For those of you who don't know, Dagem is in charge of the Ethiopian ecosystem and mainly doing acceleration and incubation locally with this ecosystem. But I will leave him to tell us a bit more. Please feel free to take the mic.
I, I believe like you're from everywhere, so I don't know whether to say good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. But like, good day, everyone. Dagem is my name. It's a pleasure to actually meet a lot of people from all walks of life across the globe. So my name is Dagmawi Bedilu. I'm currently the co-founder and chair for the Ethiopian Games Association, and also like I run a local, like the only local publisher in here in Ethiopia called Efuye Gela Publishers, and we've been making games and also like publishing games for the past ever since 2016. The first 4 years were very experimental and very much like what you call, uh, we never had an ecosystem. Like I'll take you through some of the basics. We never had an ecosystem, so we were busy like trying to understand what people want, what people are willing to pay for, um, and like we actually were very realistic from the beginning because I worked at a corporate. I might look young for you guys, but like I've done my time. So trying to understand like where the money is at, like what the people want, who's going to pay for the games, and like all of this. So it kind of like we had a 4 years rocky kind of age, but now somehow, even though we can't say it's a flourishing ecosystem, but we are actually like a stable ecosystem, especially for the past 3 years. We were able to also like to showcase our ecosystem at the Gamescom last year. We were at the Creation Africa, and also like currently we doing um, uh, publishing for 16 studios, and we'll be like um, putting the games into the public audience. We have like pretty much local focused, but like we're thinking in starting from 2016, we're trying to get our games to abroad, especially for our diaspora community. And we also like work on the esports aspect. We actually do a 360 ecosystem mapping where we're doing game dev and game publishing and also esports and game service provision. So uh, you can say like we are an ecosystem player for the Ethiopian gaming ecosystem. So that's like kind of introduction. I would love to get to know everyone. So I don't know if Olympia if they can unmute themselves, but like yeah, just to know who I'm talking to and to kind of adjust my tone and my topic to your desire. Maybe you can introduce your name and I would like to know your expectation. What are you expecting? Because like it seems Olympia is like putting a pressure on me. So I would like to know what do you want to know about it, or why are you here for? Like you're so I would like to know that so that I can kind of gauge and uh, uh, contextualize my lessons, my topics.
Who would like to start? That's going to be the question.
Like the ice.
Who's brave?
Okay. Just because awkward silence is awkward. Um, I'm David. I'm the head of studio at Gela Games in Cape Town, South Africa. We're currently working on a title called Metavoidal, which will be going out. Can't quite officially confirm the release date yet, but it will be going out in Q3 this year. Um, this call in particular is interesting because we've never been through the prototype, iterate, prototype, iterate, prototype, iterate phase. We've generally just gone, yeah, the thing we want to make, we're going to make it, we get it out. So I think just kind of hearing the way that most people recommend it should happen is what's most interesting to me.
Thank you, David. Going to name so that we don't have this awkward moment. Johan, are you free to open your mic and chat quickly?
Here we go. Sorry,
Yes.
it just took longer than I intended. I'm Johan from South Africa. I run indie studio Infinite Loom, currently myself and a co-founder. We started on a project which scoped itself out of scale very quickly, and so we're reevaluating what we're doing and probably gonna build a smaller prototype as our first title. So from this talk, I am new to the game industry. I've been I suppose, a follower or a watcher of the game industry for a very long time, but my life has also come from corporate and enterprise software. So, I'm here to learn as much as I can so that I don't, fall on my face with our first game. So there we go.
Fantastic. Thank you. Omar, are you available to open your mic also? And there is a question. How do you raise your hand here? Normally you have a react thing.
Oh, okay.
I think that's there.
Yeah, I found it. It's hand gestures. Okay, I never got it. Okay, so I'm Omar from Neath Owl Games. We are based in Egypt, and to be honest, I have a question about how do you scan the market properly before getting your genre for like you can get the idea, but you can't decide on the genre because you need to scan the market. But when you actually finish the prototype or the game, the trend genre is not trendy anymore. So this like it ends up as two questions, but I think you got what I mean.
Okay. Mame Moore, I don't know if you can open your mic or maybe safe. We don't see your camera, so I'm assuming that you're here, but I don't hear or see anything, so I'm assuming that there is a struggle over there on the mic. Kairos Patrice, I don't know if you can open your mic and if you can just present yourself quickly.
Hello everyone, I'm Patrice de Souza from Benin. Uh, I'm the founder of Kairos Game Studio, a small game studio. Uh, we are trying to make game uh, focus on African theme and also share content about video game, learning, game development, and stuff like that. I'm happy to be here with you. Thanks.
Thank you, Patrice. Okay. In that case, I think that the rest is. Oh no, there is. Yeah, no, the rest is only AI. I think so. If you want to keep on it again, that's your time.
Should we ask the AIs to introduce themselves? Like nowadays, like with the AGI, I think like we're kind of scared. Like one day they will unmute themselves and start talking. So I think like it's a very diverse and interesting topic that were mentioned, and I'll try to like to jump from like I've run workshops like since 2018, so I have like a couple of like slides done for one for like game dev, like one for game publishing. So I'll be just jumping from slides to slides, um, and also like I'll be using my notes. So I'll be like if on Impa, if you can, I'll be also like using my notes. I'll be joining using another my phone. So if you can allow me, I can also like use my notes that I can actually sketch use rather than
Do you want me
speaking
to
with.
share the screen then?
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. So I'm joining using like there is a I would assume there is someone trying to join another me.
Yes.
Yeah,
There are two of you now. Oh my God.
yeah, exactly. Perfect. So nice. Um, Let me just check if it works.
It seems
You
like
can see
it's
that, right?
working. Yes, we can
Perfect.
see.
Yeah.
It's white so far, though.
So, do you see my drawings, right?
Yes.
Nice. Okay. So I'll come to this later on. And before I start, also like if I may know how much time would be like do we have?
You have
So
an
that like I can.
hour so far.
Perfect.
You can, yeah, you can go.
Nice. Okay. So let me just so usually what happens whenever we actually like sit down with game studios, there are two types of like game developers or like two types of game studios that we always like kind of face. One would be like we call them the creator types. So the creator types would be usually this maniacs. They would have a great idea. Like some would be very good with visuals. Some know how to write the code. Some would be very good in Unity or Unreal. Maybe they've been working in a studio for quite a long time, and maybe they see it in their dreams, or they get obsessed about a specific trendy game genre, and they're like they just start doing it. So when we get them, like we call them the creative types. So usually the problem with the creative types is they never see the market. They never see like where the money will come eventually. It's pure passion, and they will just like come in and try to take over. So uh, you don't tell them like it's to chill on their passion because like they will be demotivated immediately. So kind of like take them through it and like day by day try to show them that it's not only passion, but they need to also like think of the or consider the consumer in a way. The second type of like studios that usually come to us, these are like the business types. So the business types, they come and they say like, we want to make money making games. And uh, they may never know like they might have never written a single code in Unity or Unreal or Godot, or like they can't even write properly, forget like doing like drawing things or like being good at graphics or like character design, but they know how to hustle. They know how to go out and ask question, observe what games are being played in their community, and like so usually our job is to kind of bridge the two. If possible, we kind of like get them in one group and try to create one studio. Usually that's not the case, especially the passion types. They don't want to work with other people. So what we're going to do is like we're going to play the missing link and try to create one holistic game studio at the end. So so let me just take you through it. Let me share this screen now. Um, you see my screen, right? Perfect.
Yes, but
So
it's not in big if you want to, or
yeah,
as you wish.
Ash. So so I'll just like use this would be like a very quick introduction so that you guys like can understand like how we work and how usually game publishers work, because even when we're talking about reading the market, uh, like Omar asked, or like doing prototyping and agiling or like following trends. there is a concept we all need to understand. And this concept has been used so much, but to a point, like, I don't know, like people really understand what it means. And this word is like ecosystem. We always talk about, even when Olympia, when you introduce me, he's like, you say like Dagem is from the Ethiopian, he kind of like is from the Ethiopian gaming ecosystem, but like we never actually think of what an ecosystem look like. So I'll start like for any game studio, especially those in the uh, running chairs, like who are like the founders, they need to understand that this is like something like I think they believe that I need to understand, especially if you've done history in game development and if you know about the 1983 crisis, how games ecosystems grow and fail. Knowing this is very crucial, especially if you are the leader. So when we started back in 2016, this is an actual our story. Uh, I'll take you through it. This is what our ecosystem used to look like. I will explain what it is. I will try to explain it. So the an ecosystem is comprised of like four players or four parts. Now, usually, as a game developer, what you think is like this is like what you think. You make a game and you make it rain. Like you make a game and you put it on Play Store and like then money is like just gushing. And you're partying, you're blowing the money. This is what a lot of people actually assume what game developers. And unfortunately, like this doesn't work. This rarely works, especially forget games. Even in tech, it doesn't work that way. Games is even worse. Like we have like this famous number where out of 100 tech companies, 97 of them survive, then fail, and only three of them survive. When it comes to games, it's even worse. Like the numbers are ridiculously small. So the reason why people usually think this way is it has to do with a lot of egos, like a lot of like only looking at oneself, like um, just because you like the idea or just because you like the gameplay, assuming everyone will like it. But as we all know, like no mother would hate their own kid. So if it's you who created it, the possibility of you hating it is almost impossible. So making a judgment and assuming everyone else would like it for the same reason is just uh, never works. Like it never works. So now the problem, uh, how we do it, is like I said, the ego way, which is this fragmentation, meaning you only think of you, your studio, and then you assume like I make the game and the consumer just buys it. So this never works because of three reasons. And we've seen a couple of studios making it, but this is something I will not bet on as a publisher. I will never bet on this, meaning okay, I will make a game, I will make it alone, or maybe let's say we'll be two or three. We're very much passionate. As, our idea, like we love our ideas, and like we're going to take over the world. And then we kind of make a prototype. Then we go out looking for grant, or usually we self-finance it. Then we get that money. It could be like 5,000 euros or 10,000 euros. In some cases, 50,000 euros. Then we actually bring it back, make more games, and the cycle continues. And most game studios and also like most tech companies survive on this. Like you make a prototype, you look for a grant, and then the cycle continues. Now this, I don't think you want to do this. Like meaning like no game studio wants to like name no co-founder of a game studio wants to make games all their life. You want to eventually be a manager or a shareholder, hire other people to do run it, and like you kind of sit down and love them. So if this is not the case, then how does a game studio work? Now that's when the concept of ecosystem comes into play. So getting you back to what an ecosystem feels like, a typical junior game developer or a studio would think there is only two sides to a game ecosystem, which is the creator side, which is you, the makers, and the consumer side, which are the people who pay for it. But in reality, there are more players in the ecosystem than you think. And to just simplify it, uh, we group them into four. So the creators, you can assume the creators are the people who make the game. These are your developers, your artists, your audio makers, all of this. You can put them all in the creator side. On the opposite side of this, you have the consumers. These are the people who play the games, that you make, and most probably either pay for it in cash or in attention. It depends on what type of games you're making. But there are two players in between. Now, the enablers, these are actually the players, these are the stakeholders that create the ground for game customs to flourish. Usually, these are the publishers, these are the policies, as for example, like Spielfabrik, like in Germany and in France, there's a lot of grants. The government actually supports the gaming ecosystem that makes the government an enabler, meaning these are people or individuals or companies or NGOs that want the game industry to flourish for their personal reasons, like for their economical reason, whatever. So an enabler's job is to kind of facilitate the flourishing of like studios. For example, we can say Spielfabrik is an enabler. Like they set up a platform, they connect characters, like they can connect studios. So they kind of like enable a flourishing ecosystem in a way. Now, another very important player in the ecosystem is what we call a facilitator. Now, the facilitators are the most important players. These are these are the companies or the startups or like the platforms that get the game, they take it from you, and they get it to the consumer. Now, the funny thing is, like for example, Play Store is a facilitator. Now, the problem with Play Store is now you have 7 million apps in Play Store. Around 4 million of them are games. Almost 80% of them are free games. So the possibility of you putting a game on Play Store and it's being downloaded by someone and some people are paying for it is almost slim to none. So in a nutshell, an ecosystem, for example, like to give you the biggest names, لمثالي, for example, you take FIFA, for example. So if you take FIFA is a studio, meaning it's there, the studio is in the creator. FIFA by itself is a publisher, meaning they set up the market, they understand that they do the research. If you know the story of like FIFA, for example, like Electronic Arts, the Electronic Arts guys were never actually game developers. They were businessmen, three businessmen coming together. They're like, there's a crisis, the gaming ecosystem just fall apart. They understand what the problem is. They went out, they did the research, they understood that people love football, and they said, okay, if we can get a studio to come and make a game about football, then we can sell it. So they kind of like set up a studio, they made FIFA. For the past 20 years, they're selling it. So this is like these enablers and facilitators coming together and creating a wider ecosystem or a playable ecosystem. So one thing that game studios never do, but we always encourage them to do is to look around and map the ecosystem around themselves. Like, for example, Omar, I don't know where you are. Like, are you in South Africa? Where are you?
We are from Egypt.
Egypt, right? So, as a game studio, for example, if I want to start a game studio in Egypt, what I would do is I would just sit down and I'll just list down all the popular game studios in Egypt, and then I'll try to kind of map who are they connected to, why are they connected with them, and how are they going to making money. I'll try to kind of like see the patterns already. So like, for example, if there is a specific studio that's making a lot of games, I'll say like which games are they making the most, how much money are they making it from, then like who's playing it, am I even playing it myself? Then I'll go and ask the people why they're playing it and why they're paying for it, and I will do the kind of a reverse engineering kind of thing. Like, okay, so you're playing it for this reason. You like it because of its local multiplayer, or you like it because it's interactive storytelling, or it's a kind of like a vehicle for political notions, agendas. Like I'll try to find why that game is viral and why people to play it. So once I get that, once I do the pattern, once I understand who the enablers, the actors are, and who the last time facilitators are, then I will like, okay, I'll try it. Then I'll go to the storyboard and start making my game. and I'll add all those very key features that make the game go viral. So this is like what we advise studios and what we do on behalf of the studios we have in Ethiopia as well. So now the way we did it, as you can imagine, this was we when we started in 2016. This was like a studio. Our I can see we had only 4 game studios in it, and from the four of
To answer your question, no, it was a bit like E, but now he just disappeared. I know. I hope that the Wi-Fi in Ethiopia didn't went down. It's maybe only on his phone. I see Dagem is back. Hi.
hi, I'm back.
All
It seems
good?
like I did
Yeah,
a Wi-Fi switch. I
it's
think one of
good.
my routers is down. Yeah.
Can you maybe just like start over from the beginning of the sentence? Because you were like starting to be a bit robotic beforehand.
Okay, which part did kind of disappear from?
When you were starting to talk about the specific case of Ethiopia, like you were saying
Okay,
like
nice.
that's
Okay, perfect. Okay, so as you can see, okay, I'm not sharing my screen. It's because I was disconnected. Okay, do you see my screen now?
yes.
Perfect. So back in 2016, this was where we started from. So as you can see from the creator side, we only had 4 game studios. One of it was our game studio. The others, technically, we call them game studios, but they were not fully functional. They were like very niche. For example, this Desert Rose was a company that was not making digital games. They were making actually analog board games, and they were a studio, which kind of like consider them their existence. There was an A Studio, which was like founded by 2 graduate software engineers who made uh, an infinite runner game for their graduation project, and it kind of became popular in the media. And of course, our studio, but like mostly it was individuals, independent developers, like individuals that were making games. So ever since 2013, there were a couple of Ethiopian games made and hosted in Play Store, but like they never took off. And because like once the people uploaded, they kind of forget it and go live their life in a way. So this was the issue. Then when it comes to enablers, like we only had 2 enablers per se. One was a tech hub called Gabea that was investing on tech, and like they were a kind of like funding one of the studios called Kane Studios. And the other was the Goethe Institute. So the Goethe Institute back in 2016, they were just entering the game scene. They were kind of like investing on games, and they were like looking for studios, but like they didn't do anything. Now, this is not where like we want to focus on. Whenever you're doing an ecosystem mapping, this is like something you don't want to focus on. You want to focus on the second part of that, which is do people play games? Like because like if people don't play games, don't bother making it for them. Because like back in 2016, mostly like when we go around and ask around, actually, that we had a lot of casual and hobbyist gamers, and we were expecting actually like a million, only in Addis, in the city we live in, a million people played games every week. Um, now, the funny thing that was happening, because back in 2016 we didn't have a stable internet connection, not a lot of people had smartphones. So the funny thing was how the gaming was happening. So Ethiopia is a very special case because a 300 or $400 game console was very expensive. People can't afford it to buy it for themselves. So what happens is business people would buy the consoles, would kind of rent a house, and they put the consoles there, and people come pay to play those games. So gaming happened, and we call them game zones, in these game zones. And these game zones were actually very much exploding all over the place. So one thing we kind of understood is, okay, there are a lot of game zones that are facilitating the gameplay mechanism, but there was a huge wall between local game creators and local game content and the consumers, because most of the consumers played Call of Duty or FIFA or Mortal Kombat or Taken, but they never actually had a liking for local games. So there was this huge wall that was like built, and most of this consumer was being fueled by an external ecosystem, not an internal ecosystem. So we can say like it was not an standing ecosystem. So that's when we started, okay, how can we fix this nodes? So in the next almost like till 2025 till now this is a new ecosystem. So all the white dots that you see, these are initiatives we've started in partnership with uh, a lot of stakeholders. So we tried to create a healthy ecosystem where all sections are somehow filled. So we established the Efuye Gela publishers. This publisher's main job is to go out, look for what people are playing, what's viral in the market, and why it's viral, and my finding mechanics is from the market. So, for example, we found out that in Africa, local multiplayers, because we are a communal society, local multiplayer games are very much popular. So, like local multiplayer in the sense you install it on your phone and you play it with three of your friends on one phone, for example. Now, these games are very much popular. We also found out that there are like interactive storytelling contents are a lot of in demand. We also figured out games for impact, or like what we call games for change, which are serious games, where games that carry serious topics like equality or SDG goals. These are very much high in demand, especially by the NGO. So uh, we kind of found out like demands and needs for contents, and we actually heavily invested in our studios to start working on this content. At the same time, we actually started because back in 2016, we only had 4 game developers that were actually making game development as a job, meaning that we didn't have a lot of opportunities where game developers can be hired. So we started hosting these game jams, like we host them every 3 months, where we bring junior game developers and make them sit down with the senior ones, and in 48 hours they make uh, games. So they kind of learn the whole game development life cycle from design, prototyping, development, and publishing in just 48 hours. And then now we have like our ecosystem actually fuels 80% of game developers in all over Ethiopia. So so we kind of like looked around the ecosystem and try to fix it, because there are multiple ways of making money. Making games is one way of making money in the gaming ecosystem. There are a lot of ways you can actually train people how to make games. You can actually like provide talents to studios. You can do market research for a game studio. You can do artwork. You can do like a million job to actually like make money in the gaming ecosystem. So we're actually running around finding those funds, those investors, and trying to put them in the ecosystem. And also, like by far the most important thing we've done was in the facilitation side. We actually started hosting events. Like one example to tell you that this is a very good example, because when Call of Duty was actually expanding in Africa, what they did was very amazing. Because yes, you can buy the game, but how they made it viral in Africa is very interesting, because they started what we call a Call of Duty community. So they will fund this micro communities, this a group of Call of Duty lovers, and they will give them small cash, and they will host events. And this events is like LAN parties, tournaments, and you'd assume like um, how would this help the game industry grow? But like when people come together and start playing, they love Call of Duty, and then they buy the game. So they kind of like started this community based development, and we actually like took that model, and that's the model like we're implementing. So we actually take the games that are being developed in Ethiopia, and we take them to concerts, we take them to events, festivals, and we actually like create small groups there, like, and we run LAN parties, tournaments on these locally developed games. And people find that like them. So immediately after, when they go home, what they would do is they just download them. And what you need is like, we call it a critical mass. Like usually it's 10,000 players. Once that critical mass is reached, then you don't have to do a lot of intensive marketing. You can go digital marketing, because like the digital marketing space is so much populated by uh, boosted content. People don't trust it. And like there is a lot of friction. Me on being on Instagram, seeing a game ad, clicking on it, going to Play Store, downloading it, and playing it is very much high friction content. What I would rather do is if I actually meet up with my friends in a concert and like there is this game being played, I join in, I play, I kind of like I get the cocaine dose of the game, and I really like it. And then I'll ask, what's the name of the game? I want to play it with my family, and then you tell me, then I go and download it. So especially the first 10,000 players, you have to do kind of a hardwired marketing where you go out, build a community around it, and make it go viral. Or else you need a big publisher like maybe even a local publisher like Katie first to kind of look at it, take the game and do the testing for you across different markets, then do the analysis, do the analytics behind the game, and like do this. But as a game studio, you can't afford to do this because like you want to make the game and also like you don't have time to kind of sit down with the data and analyze it and see where your game the developers are, your gamers are coming from. So you kind of get split by the amount of work that comes with making a game. Rather, what you want to do is either work with bigger publishers, reach out to them and start from where they want you to start, or if you want to do it by yourself, have a branch that actually takes the game, goes to the market and kind of tests it for you. Or you can do the reverse where you go around, ask around what people are playing, then break down the game, find out what they like about that specific game, and try to make a small prototype that has that mechanics and try to give it back and like see how they kind of play with it. So are we on the same page? Is it something helpful? Okay, nice. So now this is when we started. Okay, I was saying we kind of like established our publishing side, and also at the same time we started our community side because we are a publisher. If we uh, meaning we are a profit company. So uh, not a lot of studios trust us because like they would ask, what's in it for me? So we also established our community, which is an association, the Games Association, so that we can also have our neutral face where we'll be investing on game developers, creating more game developers, uh, hosting events. We actually host tournaments, and also like we run ChawataCon, which is the Ethiopian Game Festival. So where every year we gather every game stakeholder in town, put them in a room, and make them discuss potential collaborations because you either grow together or die together. What you don't want is a competition in a not so flourishing industry. If it's a small industry, what you want is collaboration. So to collaborate, you need to have like a lot of networking space events where you sit down with other fellow creators and try to understand the problem and try to figure out your consumer base. So this continuous sit downs and conversations are very crucial. And for that, we established our uh, association in our community. So now the other alternative, like I said, you have these four sides. You have the creator side where knowledge is being created and games are being created. You have the enabler side where you have social partners. These are like NGOs like the Goethe Institute or any grant providers that actually give you grant for making games. Or publishers, these are actually business partners where they want to give you money in return for their money being multiplied. And also like the government plays a significant role because you will have maybe some hindrance when it comes to some policies with regard to game development. For example, in Ethiopia, there is a huge mix-up between games and gambling. So whenever games are mentioned, a lot of people assume it's gambling. So we have a lot to fight with the government with regard to like making sure they don't mix what we do with what gambling is. And we actually stand against gambling, as a matter of fact, because it's not a sustainable business model. So that's something like you have to work with the government side. And with regard to the facilitation, these are the places that sell your games. It could be virtual stores. For example, we in Ethiopia, because Play Store is very much saturated, and we know we can't compete on Play Store, we created an Ethiopian Games Store. So it's like think of it as a manga, for example. If you go to everywhere, like everyone has a separate uh, place where they can find your game. So, for example, in Tunisia or in Egypt or in South Africa, If you put it in Play Store, it's like going to compete with global games. But if there are people who want to play South African games, there needs to be a place where they can find South African games. So that's why we created our Ethiopian games stores, and we put all our games in that store so that our diaspora community, they don't have to look for us in Play Store. As a matter of fact, if you look for us for our games in Play Stores, rarely would you find it for two reasons. One, Google is like, as you know, like Google is a pain in the ass. Like they have a lot of um, luggage, they have a lot of rules and regulations, and most of our studios don't have like the skill or the capacity to work with place like Google. So rather we would have like our own separate store where we have like niche games, and our communities would actually come and buy the games from our own stores. So that's also like, especially when you work as a community, that's a very important thing. So a facilitator includes stores. Events are very important and very crucial, especially if you're working in games that are communal. You need to have events being hosted where people come together and play the games, try the games, give you feedback. And if you have $100, I would advise you to spend the $40 on the game development and the remaining $60 on marketing. So this means $20 in community building, $20 on digital marketing, $20 in actually branding, social media engagement, and going to networking events, going to African Games Week, Gamescom, Lagos Games Week, ChawataCon. Like we call it, you go there and you kind of put your face on the map so that people like kind of publishers would land you and would see you. If they don't see you, you'll never like say. For example, if you know Devolver, I know like I believe like Devolver, the publisher, and how they work is they have like 20 people who actually grant the publishing managers, and at least half of them need to endorse your game to get your game to be published by Devolver. So you have to actually there are four ways to actually go get into Devolver. Either you send them an email that never works, almost like you have a 1% chance because everyone is sending them an email. But what you can do is like you can stalk them on LinkedIn, kind of like nag them to kind of test your game and like it. Or what you can do is like you can meet them at events while you're showcasing it and they can come and talk to you. Or what you can do, you can do a snippets and you can do a social media campaign where you have the snippet of your games and your players' reactions being showcased. So having events is very crucial. Events are a crucial aspect of any game marketing. Also, like game zones, I don't know, like for some special conditions, especially like in Ethiopia, Kenya, West Africa, this is very popular. So getting your games to game zones is very crucial. So you have to kind of create that connection with these game zones. Last but not least, there's the consumers. You have to know your consumer base. This is very crucial. You have to differentiate whether your consumers are pro gamers, meaning if you're running competitive, if you made a competitive game, multiplayer games, you need to have pro gamers. These are like your first gamers that play to compete with one another. But other than that, if it's you're making a casual game, a hyper casual game, a hobbyist game, or in some cases, we also have what we call edu games, where we're making educational game, or corporate gaming, which one thing, like as a matter of fact, almost 60% of our revenue comes from corporate game simulations. We make actually simulation. Make workplace simulators. We make decent work simulators, and actually, like they go very well because we can sell it to corporate companies and we can play in B2B model. So B2B model is cheaper because you don't have to spend a lot of on marketing compared to B2C models where you have to find the player perfect personally. But for example, when you make a workplace simulation, we have to reach out to companies and say, use our game simulator to teach your workers about workplace culture and being a professional worker or decent work culture. So these are like niches that you can also like consider in a way.
Uh,
So,
If I can, there is a
okay,
question in
yes.
chat. Omar is
Oh,
asking
okay.
if you know where the Souls-like games can be found. Like which niche do they refer to in your theory?
Which games?
The Souls-like.
Can you explain more?
Like the whole Omar maybe can go, yeah.
Hi. Yeah, I mean like so it's like it's not casual and it's not competitive.
Okay, okay. So let me show you my like the framework we use. So
Okay.
maybe if it helps you, like that would be good. So I'm sharing my other screen. Um, mm. So this is like this is like our game production, and do you see my screen? So this is like this is a holistic 3 weeks course that we give on game design, production, development, and publishing. And there are a couple of like tools we use for it. So these are our classifications in a way. So these are our big classifications for game genres or like game types. Let me put it on big. So now, a lot of people, like whenever we talk about games, I know most of you here, whenever I say digital games, you're going to think of only entertainment games. So there is actually like a broader scope, like there's even a grander scope, meaning I'm just like the grander scope would be um, game environment. So like when now, for example, like 3 of our studios were at the Lagos Game Jam, they were just selected for an award, and they now like AR gaming and VR gaming is becoming a thing. So now like the biggest domain as when classifying games is what we call game environment. So there are games you play digitally, there are games you play physically, and there are play games that you play analog. And the fourth one now is what we call pervasive game, which is across cutting game where, for example, if you're playing with Nintendo Switch, it's a digital and analog game. If you're working on VR games or AR games, this is a bigger classification. As you go inside, like whenever we talk about digital games, you can PC, console, mobile. Like the same thing when I say analog game, you can say board, deck building. You can actually break it down, and you can actually like break it down to this five big applications. So now, these five applications as like one is experience design. We call it playful design. This is a part of game design, and also like we actually make money out of it. This is where you're doing like maybe an escape room. You're designing experiences like treasure hunt. Like I'm pretty much sure like you might have like something like a pervasive game where like Pokemon Go or something like that, like where you have actually experience. You don't say there is no specific powerful game mechanics, but you go around and like you kind of like make the experience fun. You make walking fun. We say, for example, we say golf is gamified walking rather than just walking. Kind of hit a ball and walk towards it, and it becomes more fun, and you gamify the experience. Then there is gamification. Gamification is when we take the game design and apply it in real world, meaning not in a gaming world, but in actual physical world. So, for example, if you're in your workplace, if you have like employee of the month kind of reward system, that's what we call gamification. When you take games and apply it on real life, game design. Serious and educational games, I'm not a big fan of them, but they sell a lot, especially in Africa, because there are a lot of grants for educational games, for like games that teach kids how to write, how to do mathematics, how to do like now we talk about, for example, like gamification. You have Duolingo, which is blowing up. So like you have the serious games also as well, like that. I don't know if you know Little Alchemy, where you forge items and you create new items. It's a very popular viral game, and you use it as for teaching because African parents tend to see games as waste of time. So if you kind of like add the context of like this helps your kids become smarter, it kind of sales in a way. Now this is an understanding consumer mindset. Then you have simulation systems. When it becomes simulation, it becomes a bit sophisticated, meaning it's more about the science, the physics behind. It has to be as realistic as possible. Uh, but it sells as well. It's a B2B model and it works well. Now, whenever we talk about fun games, it's about entertainment games. Now, in entertainment games, we have another framework that we use. I want to actually show this for you. Uh, so this is like the model we use. So yes, there are like new genres being created every time, but This is by far, I think, for the past 4 years we were actually like playing with. So you can actually divide it into four. You have conflict and exploration. Like just to give you a pretext, like if you know Bartel model, it's a very old game design model where that classifies gamers into four categories. So you have like, and you have the players that love to compete. So we call them killers. These are people like who love to compete, meaning they want to beat their friends. Like, so if they beat their friends, they want to beat their other friends. And these are the easiest type of games to make because you don't have to work a lot on designing mechanics because the other players are the mechanics. So, for example, FIFA is viral because of it's a killer game, meaning when you play FIFA, it's a multiplayer. So if I beat you, then I replace you. I don't replace the game. I bring someone else who's better and I'll play with them. You see? So if you're making like a killer game where there is a multiplayer aspect and people can play it with their friends, use their colleagues, you don't have to invest a lot on mechanics, level design. You don't have to. If you look at FIFA, there is no level design on it. It just every year for the past 20 years, every year they just change the characters. They just like introduce new players and they make new characters. And still, it's one of the most viral game out there because it's simplified. It's a multiplayer, and you don't have to think of a lot of game mechanics. And if you see most games that lasted for longer time, these are multiplayer games because they outsource the mechanics to the players. They play the most widely played, even board games is poker because it outsources the play chase, it outsources the mechanics to the other players. So you don't have to do a lot in mechanics design, level design, all this technicality, you can avoid it. But it comes also with the cost of if you're doing multiplayer, there is a lot of like coding you have to do network development, you have to do a lot of optimizations. If you're doing local LAN, multi-LAN, that's a lot of headache, server cost. This is something you have to hinder on the other side. Now, the other place are what we call achievers. Achievers are people who like to compete, but not with other people, but with themselves or with their past self. So these are players, they play to defeat their previous self. So, for example, if you're playing Tetris, which is the most widely played achiever game, you play it, you get 100 as a score. You play it again, and you have 101. And your brain is telling you you're being better. So you keep playing it, even though you'll never win it. There is no one in the entire world who has defeated Tetris because you will lose the game. But why you play it is like to become better and better and better. Now you add a score, like a global scoreboard, it becomes an achiever killer game. Meaning now you're seeing other people's score and you're competing with that as well. Now the explorers, this is like they hate competition whatsoever, but they love novelty. They love new experiences. So this is your typical platformer game. If you're making a platformer game, you have to continuously feed the player with new experiences, new levels, new characters, new enemies. Now it's a lot of game design headache, but you can make it a solo game, meaning it can be contained somewhere. So if you've seen all of this multiplayer like these open order games, like I don't know, GTA or like Zelda or like any explorer game, platformer, where it's Mario or Prince of Persia, these are explorers. And if you look at it, it's very hard to actually sell an explorer, so you have to invest a lot on marketing so that it kind of outmatches everyone else out there. Now, the last one are socializer games. Now, socializer games, these are like made for people, but not to compete, but collaborate. For example, like if you any sandbox game, like Minecraft, for example, it's a socializer game. There is no, you can also compete with it, but like usually it's for people to come together and build stuff and make something together, and it's a collaborative game. Now, if you look at all the AAA games, they actually combine elements for each of them. For example, if you playing PUBG or Call of Duty now or Fortnite, you have killer because you're competing. It's for achievers because you're collecting skins, you're actually growing levels. Like if you're League of Legends, your levels are growing. It's explorer because it's always new spaces, new areas being unfolded, and socializers because you can chat with everyone. Like you have a chatting system where you can talk to people, make friends, create relationship. So now as a startup, as an indie, you can't afford to invest this much to do for everyone. So you have to start somewhere. Either you're targeting killers, or you are targeting achievers, you are targeting explorers or socializers. Now, hyper casuals are a form of achiever games that are like we call them that hog the brain, meaning you have to like be so much focused on the screen and touching it continuously. You're kind of like trapped there. So you lose focus and you lose sense of time and space. So there is an ethical element related to it. I don't want to dive into that, but now this is like the biggest building block when designing games. So you can actually, when you start designing for your consumers, the first question we usually ask is, who am I targeting? Am I targeting killers, achievers, socializers, or like something? And once we do this, then we come to what I was telling you about, the the genre board. So on one side you have conflict, which is for killers, and explorers, exploration. Then you have action and strategy, meaning brain or what do you call, like continuous engagement or action. So if you can mix and match, you can create indefinite number of game genres. And like, yes, people when they go on Steam or they go on Play Store, there are significant number of gamers that are choosing by genre, and also like a lot of algorithms work on genre level, suggesting based on the genre people love. But as an indie, we don't highly recommend you go for the big unknown gamers. We want you to focus on the people that you know around you that love playing games, and ask what live games that are they're playing, and what specific mechanics of the game that's they keep playing again and again and for. So you can build on top of that. Now, most usually, like we see a lot of indie studios following a triple A strategy, meaning trying to target the mass market, or let's say an Ethiopian game studio trying to target the German market or the Brazil market. And we don't advise that personally, because you have a lot of unknown, especially if you don't have a publisher in Brazil. Like me trying to guess what a Brazil gamers love is very much shooting on the wild. What I would rather do is go around game zones, go around my family, my friends, and like find the most viral game and identify the mechanics that is going viral and kind of replicating it. Nowadays, writing codes is very much simplified with AI. Just make a prototype as soon as possible and giving it to them, and uh, checking if they like it. Especially if once they like the mechanics, one thing I can actually show you is there are 4 ways you can start making a game. Especially this is for very essential for prototyping. There are 4 places you can start making games. You might start from emotions. Maybe you can ask, what emotions do I want my players to feel? Do I want to make them shout, smile, laugh, insult one another? So some games are created by picking an emotion. Most games that are successful are start from mechanics, meaning they start from one mechanics. I mean, it could be like, for example, Mario is all about jumping. Like they took jumping and they make a lot of experience with it. Good games usually work with one mechanics. The more mechanics your games have, the more overwhelming it becomes for the players. So we always like say keep it to 2 or 3 mechanics and not more, unless you have a lot of levels to in mind. So there are 106 mechanics. The most popular mechanics, unfortunately, is story. I'm not a big fan of games based on story, but in Africa they say like there is a huge money invested on games that are actually like story based. Even in the Europe market, when they're looking for African games, because the global market has saturated with story, they're coming for Africa looking for novel stories. And Olympia, you can actually testify for this. Most of your matching, the African studios come with unique novel stories, right? Rather than very huge coding talent. So yes, there is a room for storytelling and like untouched, untapped, unique stories. But I'm a pure believer of pure raw mechanics like running, jumping, destroying, combining, like building on top of that. It's better, especially if you're building a hyper casual I'm a huge advisor for that. And the remaining two are message and purpose. Message is for serious games, especially I advise a lot of our game studios to apply to go for games for change rather than games for entertainment, because Africa has a lot of problems, and uh, uh, you can get a lot of grant money if you associate your idea with a specific storyline. Now, one of our famous studios that are now on the rise is called Mukacha Studios, and what they do is they take controversial topics like gender equality, child abuse, and they make very ridiculous games out of it. And it's very fun. There is a lot of gray areas that they touch, but they become a vehicle for this controversial story. So they have that virality embedded in their design. And they have won like two or grants already. Like now we're sending them for Creation Africa. And this is a very good advice I give for contents coming out of Africa. Like, as for example, because there is a lot of tabooness, for example, there is a lot of misconception about Africa. So if you actually make a game about that, kind of like that encapsulates that stereotypes, it will go viral. Like if you know the president, for example, the most popular game coming out of Kenya is politics. It's a messaging game. Uh, and games, late arts, you go to late arts, it's about culture. There is actually controversy in them. So message, I believe, is a good starting point. Controversies, politics, taboo topics, controversial topics. I believe if you embed it, they go viral. Also, last but not least is purpose. Now this is where gamification comes to the picture, where if you're designing your games, having in mind behavioral change. And now this is a lot of productive apps, for example, like educational games. If you promise to make my kids smarter, better, faster, smooth, like more strategic, then if there is an aspect of changing behavior in the game or changing people's behavior in the game, actual game, for example, like making like a social media platform, like all social media platforms are gamified apps, so there are purpose embedded into them. So this is like usually, I know I'm trying to uh, cover your question from a lot of angles, but I think like you get it from one of it. So uh, I'm not a big fan of starting from genres. That's why I don't keep track of a lot of genres. I think even when I'm running this workshop, like the only game genres I have, like actually, like I I don't want people to kind of be busy with like trying to understand genres. So I would rather make them busy with understanding core mechanics and understanding which mechanics are working better. So we spend a lot of time training them with this 106 mechanics, is trying to kind of like make them apply them, because like for example, you combine time and chance, and when you combine time and let's say choice, it's a completely different game. So we focus on them creating different experiences and trying to find a viral element on it, rather than like this triple A philosophy where you go out, look for the most popular genre, clone it, and like make another competitive. You need to have a lot of marketing money to do this. And from where I'm standing, and in my opinion, I'm not a big advocate of that per se, in a way.
Thank you very much, Dagem. I think that does answer the question. Looking at Omar's face, it sounds like you had a lot of content coming from that. So that's good. I see that the time is running. Did you have other slides to show, or is it?
So technically speaking, like I said, like this is a 3 weeks workshop we give. So I'm trying to kind of like find the place where it works, like to kind of cover the first asked questions. One thing I would like to emphasize on, especially the first and the most important questions, which is regard to prototyping. So I don't know if like okay, I also have it there. Like I don't want to dive into patterns, but whenever we talk about prototypes, we talk about patterns, because like why we need to prototype is we prototype patterns, game patterns, so that we can give it to players, potential players, and identify which patterns are working and which patterns are not. Now with AI, it's pretty much simpler, but just to give you the justification for why you need prototyping, as whenever we talk about special digital games, there are two types of, like, forget digital games and let's talk about digital applications. So you take your phone, and if you go into your phone, you will find two types of applications. So the first type of applications, which were the oldest type of applications, are what we call functional apps. So a functional app, by definition, serves a specific function. For example, I have a calculator that serves the function of calculating things. Now, I have no emotional attachments with my calculator. When I wake up, I'm not like, oh my God, I need to use my calculator. Like, I never have like that emotional bond with my calculator. I only use it when a function is triggered. For example, I'm eating together with my friends and we need to split the bills. I use a calculator. So I have no emotional attachment with my calculation. On the other side, the past 12, 15, 20 years, we have a new rise of applications that we call emotional applications. Now, an emotional application by definition is an application that is designed with a behavioral psychology aspect in it to actually make you yearn for it. So that's what addictive applications look like. And I can be pretty much sure everyone, when you wake up in the morning, you go for your phones. And there is this app that you're looking for. It could be Instagram, it could be, I don't know, Angry Birds, it could be like TikTok. But there is this app that's kind of like has been by design intertwined with your brain. Now, the problem with emotional applications is even though they are very viral and very successful, they are very much hard to make because they are designed on emotions. And emotions are very fleeting and very changing, very much changing. So now when I'm making a functional app, like for example, if I'm building a calculator, I don't worry about the visual. I don't say the number one should be like italic or Roman or like I don't worry about the visual, the emotional relationship. So when I make a calculator, I don't have to test it a lot of times. Like if I test it 10 times, internally it's much better. It's like it's enough. Most applications we do ERP systems, we do CRM systems. And when we do these functional systems, if you're doing a SaaS application, if you're doing ERP, you don't have to worry about experience or emotion. Yes, there is user journey, user experience mapping and stuff, but I don't think I don't expect my ERP system to make the lady who's using it cry. I don't think that. Like, so I only test it for functionality, meaning does it do the job? Does it do the job well? Does it do the job smoothly? That's the question I'm asking. So test is important, prototyping is important, but it's not that much important. Meaning, if I do 3, 4 times, it's important. It's enough. When it comes to emotional systems, prototyping is it. We even call it test-driven design. Even when we're designing games, coding is very much costly. We never onboard our development team until we are sure the game is going to be very good. So we'll start with paper prototypes. We'll take it to the customer, like our potential consumers, and we kind of test it with paper. Because like emotions are very much hard to design objectively. It's just a subjective matter. We bring people together, we make them sit down together, and we test it. So we try to find the mechanics that work, and we drop all the mechanics that don't work. So this is like exactly what we do. So once we know with our paper prototype, I don't know if I have like here a sample of, yeah, I think I have a sample of paper prototype somewhere here. Like, look at this. This is our paper prototypes. And this is for example, like for a game we published, like it was in 2019. It's an interactive storytelling. We actually have the papers on, like made them on paper. We have all our game design patterns developed, and we actually print these papers, take it and play with the characters and see if we can create that emotional attachment with the players. Now we do this, I think like we have done more than 70 tests for this game. And we started development on the 30th prototype, meaning for 30 prototypes, it was just papers. paper after paper. Then when the papers are done, we moved into XD, like we used Figma and we used like Adobe XD, like to kind of develop prototypes. They're just touchable prototypes that doesn't do a lot of sophisticated stuff. They just do shit like simplified. Then once they are like, we kind of like, they started lifting off, then we started going into actual demo prototypes. One thing I would like to show you here, I don't know if you've heard of a game called Pusara, which is actually under development. Uh, I want to show you because I think like it will s- show you like how things work. And let me uh, until it comes up, like let me just um, take you through this. So once we did this, then we kind of like do a simplified version of the prototype. We take pictures, we just add the pictures or placeholders. If it's a 3D game, we kind of have placeholders. They move around, shoot stuff, like kill stuff, and we take that. We explain what the visual would look like for our potential gamers. We give it to them, and they test it. And like we take feedback, and we kind of hold the most costly part of the game production to the last part of the game production. So simplicity is the ultimate sophistication, and especially when it comes to emotional systems, that's the way to do it. And finally, then we go into character development, and finally, like the production comes out. So this is like, I think like a snippet of how important is agile development or prototyping. It's like, I don't know if you have grant money, you don't worry about it, but we don't have a lot. We use our money to make our games, so we are very stingy when it comes to hyper optimizing our processes. And it's test driven process. It's player first, mechanics second, or player first, game second. We rarely endorse games that are idea first, then player second. We don't like those games because we don't have a lot of money to kind of blow on them. Yes, some of them work. I'm not here to say they will never work, but it's like it's a guesswork. Starting from your own idea and trying to make the consumer love it, it's a lot of work. And if you want to actually make money with making games, I prefer like player first, game second approach. So in the meantime, I will actually show you the the Busara game and how it was developed. If you have any other questions, in the meantime, you can raise them while I'm looking for the.
I don't see any question in chat. Maybe there is someone that has like a last question before the end. Something to ask directly. Feel free to open your mics if that's the case. I don't see anyone.
Or you
So
can maybe like share your experiences. Not also like because honestly speaking, I don't want it to be like a one way road in a way. Like also like if you have a different experience in prototyping or even in general in game design, the way you're doing it, if it's different, uh, because like I believe like this is an experience sharing platform. So yes, we're also like looking for any other recommendation. If there is things you want us to look into, if there are things you think we are lagging on and maybe explore, that please feel free also like to give us to share your experiences with us as well.
maybe that's a good thing. Because okay, Omar, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to share that we had a little different experience because well, I'm the developer, so we could actually afford the development part, but we didn't have a big art team. So
Okay.
the artistic part was the costly part in our experience. So we had a lot of trouble actually in prototyping and showing the emotions or the emotion design of our prototypes because it was mostly shapes rather than actual characters or some misplaced art assets. So people kept commenting on actually
Yeah.
the misplaced art assets rather than the actual mechanic or game design. Like can we focus on the mechanic for just a minute? But it was that what I meant. It was actually a different experience.
Have you ever tried like maybe using other like already pre-made assets? Because like
Yes.
that we have the same similar experience when we're trying, especially like when it comes to platformers, 3D games, when we use placeholders and boxes to actually do prototypes, most players they will say like, where is the character? Like, and you say like, it's a box. No, no, I want to see the character. If it's a car, they want to see the car. So how we kind of like we usually cut down cost as we don't actually onboard an art team also like until we are sure the game works. So what we do is like we kind of work with, there are a lot of free assets online, we just bring it. And also like when you do that, the beauty of it is like, for example, if I use uh, a free car asset that's downloaded and put, and you even like find the players commenting on that, they would say, I would rather like I want to see a Volkswagen, or like they would say like, this car is not big enough, or they would tell you like the perspective is not the same. So you kind of like, they would even like give you a direction for where you should start from when doing that, when you onboard an actual art team. So you using pre-made assets usually as works even to get feedbacks on actual art directions in a way. Um, and that's actually a very good point that you mentioned. And yeah, it kind of like sparked like how we did it as well.
Okay, I saw that there was a switch. Patrice, you raised your hand, so I don't know if you, yeah, still have a question. Go ahead.
Okay. Thanks for the experience that was very insightful feedback. And uh, among the takeaway, I have papers, papers prototype. I will explore it more deeply. It's very interesting. I've already heard about it, but I don't pay too much attention on it. And something I want to ask you is it's about targeting the consumer. Consumer. You do you think that it's we must just target a local consumer? Because you mentioned that some people are making game, sometimes they target a international market, and it could, which that could make that the challenge will be more bigger. But illustrating that, you mentioned, for example, the game, the president. Okay, I think that this one was doesn't really fit with African culture, but is what is more general. And the thing I want to say that it can happen after making your research, that you figure out that maybe the country you are living now is not people are not doesn't have the habit of buying game, and and you don't have the how to say, maybe the energy or the possibility to make all the all the process, teaching a gamer, buying, I said, the process of investing on game. The thing that I want to highlight is sometimes can do you find that it could be relevant for a studio, particularly in Africa, to try to make game for a large audience? Because most people in our country are playing game that doesn't resonate with their culture. That's there is a key point we can take from it, that the more relevant advantage of a game is not always the cultural aspect, but a game must be a game. It must be fun, but have some kind of addictive background. I think that if we focus our skills on making actual game that is fun, it could be we can target just a larger audience. I just want to have your feedback about it. Thanks.
So, excuse me, what was your name? Karios is your game studio, right? What's your name?
Yes, Patrice.
Patrice.
Sousa Patrice.
Nice, yes. Nice to meet you,
Eh,
Patrice. So
nice to meet
that's
you. It's
actually,
not you
yeah,
were
it's
at.
a very good question because like it's a very popular problem. We're facing it in Ethiopia, in Kenya, in Nigeria. You go anywhere, especially in like sub-Saharan Africa, like it's the same. Like we have the similar problems, like you said. And like maybe let me start from your first question with regard to the paper prototype because I just found like wanted to show you how we do it, how it works with us. So this is like Pusara. This is a game we've developed since 2020. This was like together with the Goethe Institute. So it's actually like a strategy game. So that whole idea was we wanted to create a game that, for example, if you go to Asia, you have Go. If you've played Go, I think you guys know. If you go to Europe, even though it's created in India, if you go to Europe, Europe is usually represented by chase. You have like the chase. So you go to a specific place, and actually, we believe like games encapsulate the society that created them. So we wanted to create a game that represents what it means to be an African or what Africa is. So anyone plays it and they can see what Africa is. Like for example, like if you play chess, you can see medieval Europe, like where you have like different kings trying to take over one another, and even like you can see the powers, like you can see the castle, you have the knights, you have the clergy, the popes, then you have the queen with the biggest like power, and if the king is dead, like everything is over. And you have the pawns in front to be sacrificed. So it kind of like we always say like the games reflect the game maker. So wanted to make a game that reflects Africa as an instance. So we started with a very popular old African game. I think Patrice, you know, Mankala or like I think you call it Awale. And in West Africa,
Yes,
it's called
Awali.
Awale. We have in
Yes.
East Africa, we call it Mankala. In Ethiopia, we call it Gabata. And we took that game and we kind of like made it because like it's a 2,500-year-old game. We wanted to revamp it and make it the most sophisticated strategy game we can create, and that represents the African context. Because like usually when people think of Africa, they think of us as from people who have physical, who can like run, build stuff, but the African nation is never usually seen from a very strategic, bright-minded kind of society. So we wanted to make a strategic game that represents Africa. So this is like we were talking about prototype. So before we made the game, we've done like as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 prototypes. I call it 8 iterations. These 8 iterations took 6 months all in all. This game was made by 250 Africans from 15 African countries. So even like running it, I was the project manager for this project. Running it was a headache because like we have a version, we send it to all the 15 countries. They play test it with their communities. They come up with feedbacks, 30, 40 feedbacks each country. They send it to you, sit down with the feedback, you drop some, you keep some, then you kind of like play around. And to show you the first prototype, um, this was the first prototype. Uh, do you see it? Just literally, it's
Ye-
just papers and alphabets, like just like so. This is like how we call it virtues. We just came up with this is like a paper prototype, and as you can see, these are the playing pieces. We just had 5 resources. It never even have a story, and we actually have found out our core mechanics. So you just like we have a board and you play it on a board. So this was it. Okay, this was the first prototype, and we had our first game rules. We just created our first game rules. Um, So you see, like now these are the rules. So this piece where meets it creates C. Then this is a board. Let me just minimize so that you can see. It's a 4 by 4 board. This is the inspiration from Mancala. So then this is like the forging. So as you can see, like if you remember, they are virtues. So we just think of it as kind of a deck builder slash negotiation kind of game. This was the idea we had. So we made
Okay.
this prototype. Uh, then this was alpha. We call it like number one alpha because it's playable. Then we went back. um, so now then we did. So you can think of like how we did it. So um, then like let me just jump to, let's say, the the fourth prototype, for example, and I wanted to show you like how it progressed. So now, like Omar was saying, when we were showing the people like the game, they were asking, "What is this? What is this shape?" And we were telling them, "No, that's an African kingdom." And like now you see, like this is the fourth prototype. Now we have like some placeholders, there's some artworks that we just did with our hands, and we kind of like named them. We added the kingdoms, the 15 African kingdoms. We kind of like put them, and still it's a paper prototype. So we made this, and like the virtues, the names are still, as you can see, BEF or something like that. So we did this. Then now I'll tell you like to take with the beta. The beta is like the one we launched this game at Gamescom in 2020. It was where it was launched. So when we launched it, uh, it has like a very sophisticated design. I don't know if you can see. Um, let me show you, for example, the tokens. You see it now? Now it's like very much. Um it was done by a South African game designer, like designer, artist. Um, so it's well refined now, as you can see. Like it's very beautiful, well done, but still it's paper prototype, by the way. But it's actually a playable paper prototype. We just launched it because it was a strategic game. You could play it still on paper. Like if it was a platformer, of course, like it would have been a bit challenging. But if it was a paper prototype, so you could play it. Also, I can show you the cards. They also like were very well done. Very good background. Like so, we printed 300 copy of them. We went to Gamescom. We played it to everyone who came to our booth, and we gave it away. And we have like the boards made from wooden boards. As you can see, like it's well done now. Now we did this now, and we actually did 300 copies. We collected feedbacks, and everyone loved it. So because everyone loved it, then what we did was we we started doing now a digital prototype. Do you see it now? Now this is like a digital prototype. So now this is like where we took for our games week. You can see it. It's multiplayer. Like I said, we love multiplayers because the African community, we believe, is a communal community. People love to play together, and we don't want to take on a lot of game design burden. So if it's multiplayer, they play it and they compete with one another. So as you can see now, the boards are here. You can see some of the characters being moved. You see it how being played, and we showcase it. And we kind of raised money for it. So once we did this, now we raised some money. Now the last version is this one. So we're making it on Unity.
Yes.
Because like Unity is like our go-to place. Uh, so until it loads, I'll show you like this is like the last version. It's a
Okay.
well-polished version, and it works. It's playable now. We're looking for. Um, we are a local publisher. We already,
Okay.
but we're looking for like a bigger publisher that can host it for us. So we made it under Inter Africa, and this is our publishers, and now you can see it now. It's fancier. You have every element, like you can actually like play with it. Like now it's playable.
Wow.
So it's a multiplayer now, for now, like, and you can see the virtues on top. Now every story is there. The characters, the player status. You can see the player status. You can the player names. Now this is like the beta version. So this is the digital beta version. So
Nice.
you see how from a paper prototype it evolves into
Yes.
a good paper prototype, then a terrible digital prototype, then
Okay.
a better
Okay.
digital, and it can definitely go as long as people love it, play with it, and um,
Please, by the way, do you think that this strategy can match with any kind of game?
yeah, yeah. Especially like now, like the hardest thing would be, for example, like now, like as I was telling you, we're we have studios that are working on AR, VR gaming. Even AR,
Wow.
VR
Yes.
gaming, you can actually
Wow.
do a paper prototype. It's actually like you can put like, for example, I can do a VR prototyping where I stick like the things I want and create the illusion of it. I can actually, because we are human beings, we can imagine fabulous things. So if you can imagine it, you can create it. So first, without costing you a lot, you can play with imagination, and once it makes sense, and then you can actually start adding. For example, we used to do
Okay.
eyeglasses, and you can plaster something on top of it and like tell them if they like it. You can actually take your camera into you can have a VR box, and you can put it into a VR box and see if it works or not. Before you invest a lot of resources on it, you can actually
Yes, it
prototype
makes sense.
anything with paper or in reality and real life. You can, even a 3D game, you can do a prototype on paper. And then like you can go with placeholders, like I said, like then you can use reusable assets, free downloadable assets. And then finally, like you can have put everything and start making the product.
Okay. Thanks.
The point of prototyping is minimizing cost, because what keeps your games from coming to life is resources, and resources are very scarce, and you have to use them very well.
Very well.
Thank you,
I
Patrice.
agree. Thank you.
Hope that.
Thank you very much, Dagem. If Patrice has like more questions and wants to like show you
You
his
can yeah,
prototypes and
exactly.
everything, okay. In that case, I will share your contacts on the Discord server and everything so that like you can exchange and keep this conversation and do your
Perfect.
prototypes on
Yes.
paper.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
I will be happy.
Fantastic. Well, in that case, Dagem, thank you very much. I see that the time is really running. It's been
Yeah.
an hour and a half already, but thank you very much. That was very
It's a
interesting.
pleasure. It's a pleasure.
Are they going to, yeah, see you maybe at big events? You said big fair, maybe Africa Games Week, maybe in Lagos at some point. You're gonna
Yeah.
visit.
I'll be there. I'll be in Lagos for the Creation Africa Summit in October. Hopefully next year Gamescom and also like I'll try to make it to African Games Week this year, and I think it's in November, in December. I think I'll try to make it. If any of you are there, like shout out to me or like we can connect on LinkedIn. I'm pretty much very active on LinkedIn. If you want to write to me, like I have also like Olympia, you can give them my contact on WhatsApp or Telegram, whichever floats your boat. You can actually write to me. We can actually have a conversation and we can even exchange share ideas maybe like for example like Omar like North Africa usually I have no clue about what's happening in Egypt, Tunisia, like Morocco. I was telling Olympia like that's like we see it as more of like a Middle East ecosystem than an African ecosystem. So we know the Egyptian gaming ecosystem is very big compared to the sub-Saharan ecosystem. So yes, we're more than happy to kind of like get your wisdom, know about what you guys are making, what's cooking. Uh,
And I think we lost him.
Yeah, I think so
Yeah.
too.
Oh, good. No, this was the word of the end, and it's going to be cats. Well, as you mentioned, I think we can put each other in contact, and you will have the capacity of exchanging with that game if you want. No worries.
exactly. Like
Yes.
if you have games
Yes.
to be tested in Ethiopia, bring it. We're publishers. We can actually like test it with our communities and give you feedback. So yeah, um, you never know what comes out of it.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very
Nice.
much, and good luck, everyone. Have a good evening. Best of luck with your game in your
Bye.
studio.
Omar, you want to say
Can
something?
can we have like LinkedIn or the contact
Yeah,
where will
I
will
think
it be
you already
Let me
shared
find
my
it.
LinkedIn.
And I have an email, but maybe you want to share also like a
Yeah,
different email.
yeah. So that's my name, my full name. You can find it on, you can type it in LinkedIn, TikTok, wherever, like what Facebook, you can find me. That's my number if you want to write to me directly on WhatsApp or Telegram. We're very much popular, like, good with Telegram here in Ethiopia. Dagem008, that's my email. You can also like, if you want to make it very formal, you can write me an email and I will respond. We can do with all like, regards and like hi dear. We can also like do that if you want.
Yeah, thank you very much. That was very insightful. Like that actually to have meet you and then listen to you.
Thank you very much. And Olympia, like if you can send me the recording, I can send it to also like to our community as well.
Yes, will do. No worries. I will share it on the Discord for you guys, and then I send it to
Perfect.
you right away.
Nice.
Okay. Well,
Thank
good
you.
evening then.
Bye bye. Have
Cheers.
a have a good day. Bye.